question is, could you do mitzvahs with your Meiser money? We discussed it, buying, spending extra for an esrog, and we discussed different type of mitzvahs. And we came out basically two ideas. One idea was that it's a machlokes. If you're just going to do a mitzvah with the money, that's a machlokes, whether you can use a Meiser money from mitzvahs, buy svarim, esrog, or a nice pair of tefillin, and all these kind of things. The machlokes whether you can use your Meiser money for that. But there's another issue. Even those that hold you could do a mitzvah with your Meiser money, but something which you're mechuyev to do, that you can't do, because you can't pater off your chiyuvim with Meiser money.
So here's something like tefillin. Could you use this?
So you want to use your Meiser money to buy tefillin. Yeah. So since you have a chiyuv to put on tefillin every day, so it's a davar shebachayiv that you chayiv anyways. So you can't pater your chiyuvim with Meiser money. Just like a person has any obligation he has, he can't use Meiser money for it. So mitzvah obligation is no less. So even those that hold you could use your Meiser money for mitzvah, so it would have to be something that you wouldn't have done, you wouldn't have been obligated to do without having to spend your Meiser money. For example, if you could buy a pair of tefillin for $800, and you want to get a $1,500 pair of tefillin, and you wouldn't have done it anyways, so then perhaps, according to those that hold, you could use Meiser money for mitzvahs, you would be able to. But
for the 700, the difference.
The difference.
That's it.
The difference.
What about something like buying a Megillah? And getting yourself a beautiful esrog box.
So esrog box is not really a mitzvah,
No.
and the Megillah also. You get to the Megillah from the next guy, but maybe Megillah is like Svarim. Maybe you have to know. So if you want to buy Svarim, so that goes under the category of mitzvahs. So mitzvahs, what?
Okay,
so here the mitzvah also. If you whatever you got.
Is that okay too?
The what?
Mitzvah.
Anything which you don't have to do. Anything which you don't have to
You
do.
can't do it. You can't do the mitzvah without doing it.
Yeah, so if you have to do it, then that you can't.
But it's not a mitzvah, though.
I understand. So anything which you don't have to do, which that you could, according to this shita, you'd be able to spend on. So that's one shita. You could use mitzvah money, you could use Meiser money for mitzvahs, as we discussed, but not something which you're required to do anyways. Now, since that's the case, we'll get to it in a minute. The other shita holds you can't use it for mitzvah. Mitzvah is not Meiser. Meiser money can't be used for mitzvahs. It has to go to aniyim, to maybe Talmidei Chachamim, to learning. It has to go for a specific purpose outside yourself, okay, to help other people out. So, if that's the case, so then you wouldn't be able to do it for to buy yourself a nice pair of tefillin or a nicer esrog. You wouldn't be able to. So we discussed, let's say, if you're going to buy sandikos for a bris, we mentioned that people would pay to be a sandik. So you're doing it for a mitzvah. So one of the terim was that one of the terim was that if the money is going to someone that needs the money, depends who you're buying it from. Right. You're buying from a gvir, so then that's just simply for mitzvah purposes. I'm buying it to get a mitzvah, so that would go under the first category, which is machlokes. But if you're doing it you're supporting someone in the process, so then it's just a toivas hana. This is how we have to mechalakas. A toivas hana tzedakah. Okay, so in other words, even though I'm paying someone because I want to buy this on the kais, mitzad sheni, he's still getting the money and he's able to survive with that money. So that would be Tzitz Eliezer held, and he wants miyashiv the Stivus HaPoiskim. He holds that would be considered a good use of Meiser money, even though I'm doing it for mitzvahs, but it's something which is supporting the poor through that buying of the mitzvah. So a very common example of this would be, okay?
You get two mitzvahs, one for sandik, one for tzedakah.
Yeah. You buy the sandik guys, and you're giving stock in the process. Of course, so you can use your Meiser money. That would be the case. So a very common example of this would be, let's say you want to buy an aliyah. Okay? You want to buy an aliyah. So bidding, okay, and aliyah is going $300, $400, okay, and you buy it. You want to use your Meiser money for it. So on one hand, you're buying a mitzvah. You're buying a mitzvah. So now that would be a bachlaik. It's not so simple. Whether you could do your Meiser money to buy mitzvahs. Mitzad sheni, if there's a svara, where's this money going to? I'm buying a mitzvah. My purpose is I just want aliyah. Okay? Some people have different kavanas when they buy aliyah. Some people want to support the shul. Some people just want the aliyah. You know, I want the aliyah, so I'm doing it because because I want to buy the mitzvah. But on the other hand, where's the money going? So it depends where the money's going. Now we'll talk about shul and other things in a moment. But if the money's taka going to a tzedakah purpose, so there will be a big svara to say one could be able to use his Meiser money for that.
But that's not a chiyuv.
It's not a chiyuv. No, if it's a chiyuv, you
Once it's
can't.
mitzvah, you can use it for the whole amount. Because he only has a problem with if it's a chiyuv.
Right.
But if it's the whole thing is a
could
mitzvah
use it.
without a chiyuv,
Right.
you can use it all.
Right, right. So if you hold the use for a mitzvah, period, there's no problem. If you hold you can't use for a mitzvah, only it has to go for a good tzedakah purpose. So then you have to know where the money's ending up. Then there could be a svara, even though I'm paying for the mitzvah, but since it's going for a good purpose, for tzedakah purpose, perhaps I can use my Meiser money for it. So halacha l'maisa, just because we spoke about this a lot last time, but I don't know if we clarified the halacha l'maisa. The halacha l'maisa is that one should not rely on the shittas that you could buy a mitzvah with Meiser money, unless the taka has no money. The person has no money anyways. It could be he's not mechuyev to give Meiser to begin with. Then there's a svara, like we've had a few times, then he can rely on the shittas to use Meiser money for mitzvah purposes. But if a person is not in that situation, then one should not rely on those shittas, and one shouldn't use the Meiser money straight away for mitzvah purposes. It should have a tzedakah, purpose to it. So now,
You buy the aliyah for someone else.
you buy it for someone else.
Then it's tzedakah.
So you're buying a mitzvah. Why are you doing
Still buying a
it?
mitzvah.
So it has to go for tzedakah purposes.
Yeah.
Now there are Swami says, he brings down here that the guy wants to buy tefillin for his son. Okay, maybe it's a Meiser from the Stipler that he used Meiser money to wanted a double kavanah. He wanted to support Talmud Chacham that was writing Svarim, so he bought a sefer. Now he had a shaila. He's okay, you're buying the guy's sefer, so you're going to use Meiser money because he used his Meiser money because he wanted to help the fellow, but now he got a sefer off the deal, so you can't say using Meiser money, he's buying a sefer.
Why does it have to go to tzedakah? If it's a mitzvah, it's not a chiyuv. Why does it have to go to tzedakah?
Okay, we're going to the sheet is that it's not enough in mitzvah, you have to have tzedakah.
You have to have tzedakah
Yeah.
both.
So he took the money and he bought a sefer. He bought a sefer from this guy to support the guy, but okay, on the other hand, he still bought a sefer. Now, if you hold that svarim, you could buy svarim with Meiser money, we discussed this, that if it's for mitzvahs, it's buy svarim, so that would be okay. But if you hold that, well, he's going to use the sefer, he's buying it for himself, so then maybe he can't use his Meiser money for this. So he took the sefer and he gave it to Bar Mitzvah boy. And he said, a Bar Mitzvah boy is an ani, he has no money. His parents have money, he has no money. So he bought the sefer from the Talmud Chacham, so the guy should have parnasa, and he didn't want to use the sefer himself, so he shouldn't be using the Meiser, so he gave it to a Bar Mitzvah boy. But, so there's no question there,
So if
that's
you
the
give a
stipler.
present to a bar mitzvah boy, and that
So I don't think he would have done that, use his Meiser money to give presents to Bar Mitzvah boy, but he did it to help this guy out, to buy him a sefer. People come around selling svarim, right? It's just a way of them collecting money. But at the end of the day, you have a sefer from it, So, so he passed it on to Bar Mitzvah boy. But that's a discussion. If using your money for a cotton for somebody who really doesn't have, money yourself, is that a guy wants to buy a pair of tefillin for his son, okay? Wants to buy a pair of tefillin for his son. So we could argue, it's my son's mitzvah, it's not my mitzvah. He's a honey, so maybe I can use my Meiser money to buy a pair of tefillin for my son. So we'll see about that soon. We'll see about that. But the rule is, you want to help the cipher. The cipher could be an honey. You want to help him.
Be rich.
Sure.
The cipher is an honey. The money goes to him.
Yeah, but on the other, that's true. Right.
That's
On the other hand, if you have a chiyuv to put on tefillin, you can't pater yourself with that.
If a man loses a lot of money, he's required to, a lot of money, put away money in a separate account for tzedakah. But all of a sudden he finds himself in a really bad situation. Can he take the money from the tzedakah?
Yeah. So we discussed that the other
So?
week. If that he's the first, what he could take. We'll have to come back to that. What he could take from the tzedakah. Yeah.
He can.
It depends. If he's an ani now, he could.
Yeah.
Some of it, not all of it, but he could if he's an ani.
Mm.
Yeah. So now, So that's the situation. So basically, he's going to use the money for mitzvahs, but the money is going to tzedakah. So he gets an aliyah, for example. So he's going to use the money. He wants to buy a mitzvah, but on the other hand, the money is going to end up going for Meiser purposes. So it could be that would be allowed. So the halacha of Meiser, the poskim say two things. What one should do can be said that taking off Meiser is be'ikr, according to most shittas, is a minhag, strong minhag, but it's a minhag. So therefore, one should, when he accepts upon himself to take off Meiser, should have in mind when he takes Meiser that he's including these things as his acceptance of the Meiser chiyuv. Okay, that's one. So therefore, he'd be able to use his money for these these kind of things, which are going towards tzedakah purposes. But you also have it you're also doing it for the mitzvah. For example, buying aliyas. You want to be able to use your Meiser money to buy aliyas. So you have in mind metchila when you're starting to when you're keeping the halachas of Meiser, that you're including this in your his chayvus of Meiser. That's one thing a person should do. And the second thing he should do is when he bids for the he's mechayiv himself. You see, there's another problem. We said something which you're chayiv for anyways. Are you allowed to use Meiser money for that? So if I owe someone money, I can't use my Meiser money to pay back that chayiv. So when a guy gets up and he pledges $500 for the aliyah, okay, he goes and pledges $500 for aliyah. Now he owes that money. Now he wakes up. How am I going to pay this money? He says, "Hey, I have a Meiser account. Let me take from my Meiser account and pay up my chayiv." So now you have a question: is he allowed to pay up davar shebachayv, or is he allowed to pay up from his Meiser? And it's a big machlokes. The Bach and the Pnei Yeshua say you're allowed to. You're allowed to pay your chiyuv. You have a chayv tzedakah. You're allowed to pay it from your Meiser money. They hold there's no halacha that you can't pay up a davar for a chayv as long as it's going for Meiser. There's no halacha. You're not allowed to pay it up.
Doesn't matter if the shul's rich
Doesn't
or
matter.
poor.
We're not talking about. We'll get to the shul. I'm just saying, so it's tzedakah. We'll get to the shul. So he wants to use his money for it, so he could pay up his davar shebachayva for that. That's what they hold, and others say you can't. So the eitzah to get out of it is that when you pledge, you should always have and bear in mind that you're gonna pay up this. This is a pledge from the Meiser money. It's not from your own personal account. It's from the Meiser money. But if one didn't, you can rely on the poskim and pay up for the Meiser if the money's going for Meiser purposes. We say today, stam das, a person makes pledges throughout the year, and his idea is to pay up with the Meiser money, with his Meiser. But that gets into the shaila. If you want to pay, you make a pledge, and now you want to use your Meiser money for that pledge. So the healthiest thing is metchila, when you make that pledge, to understand that that's where it's coming from. There's an interesting shaila, okay, machlokes, Rabbi Kiveger, and Magen Avraham. If a guy, okay, you're bidding in shul, okay, so the guy before you bids $300, so you outbid him $350. Now, if you wouldn't have outbid him, the shul would have gotten $300. Now you bid him $350, so you're only adding on $50. So you're buying a mitzvah again. Here you want to just buy it aliyah, you're buying a mitzvah. But you're claiming that, well, the money's going to tzedakah. Very nice, but tzedakah would have had $300 anyways. And now because of your bid, they're only getting another $50. So the question is, could you pay the whole $350 from the Meiser? And Rabbi Kiveger says you can't. Rabbi Kiveger says you can't because the shul's only getting $50 off of you, and the rest you're just doing for your mitzvah. The other place to say you could. The minhag is to be makel. The minhag is that the olam pays. It's understood that all the bidding is for Meiser money. All the bidding is for Meiser money. People are paying for Meiser money, so. The shul is understanding that all the bids are going to come from already previously dedicated tzedakah money. Therefore, the seimach that you can pay the full amount. But this is a shaila. Again, you're buying a mitzvah, and So that's the use. That's what comes out in this angle. So halacha Meiser, one should have in mind metchila when he's accepting upon the Meiser, that he's accepting upon him with all these kulas. And two, that when you make a pledge, a person should understand when he bids for an aliyah, he says he should have at least in the back of his head in mind that this is really coming from the tzedakah money.
When it's the other way around, a person gets an aliyah, and after that decides to make a donation to you.
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure you could. For sure. But again, when you make that pledge, he's going to give him a ton of the base medrash or whatever he says, he should have in mind it's coming from that Meiser money. Same idea. Now,
what if they charge for like a certain amount for something? You want a plaque, it's $180. You're getting a plaque.
right. So we have to differentiate between things that are called tovas hana, things that are considered just I get a recognition or some benefit from it. That's not the ikar purpose of the money that I'm giving, or I'm actually buying something. For example, it's very common shiloh. There's a dinner. The school's making a dinner. Okay, so you buy 2 tickets. One for you, one for your wife, $360, whatever you pay. $180, $360. You come to the dinner and you get a geschmack meal. You go to the restaurant, this meal will cost you $60, $70, you know. So, are you allowed to use your Meiser money to pay for the ticket, and but you're getting back a meal? This is good shiloh. It's not so simple. In other words, if I'm just getting back tovas hana, I'm just getting back a benefit. Fine. So benefit is that's not the ikar purpose of the things you're allowed to get tovas hana. It's your money, which you're giving to tzedakah. You're allowed to get tovas hana. You're allowed to choose which honor you want to give it to. You're allowed to get that. But if it's you're actually getting a tangible benefit from it, you know, you're getting a meal, which you wouldn't get anyways. So the question is, and they have to pay for the meal. It costs them money. You know, the meal costs them money. So the question is, how much are you allowed to deduct from the Meiser money, and how much is actually not?
Tax receipt.
Huh?
Look at the tax receipt they give you.
Look at the tax
They only
receipt,
give you the tax receipt for what you haven't paid for.
If that's the case, then maybe that's more clear.
So try and tell your wife, okay, part of this counts for a nice dinner out. See if that works for you. The fact is, you wouldn't have done it.
So that's a strong swallow. The fact is, he wouldn't have bought it. I'm not coming for the meal. So in these kind of cases, one is allowed to say that what would I've really paid for such a meal? In other words, if a guy would offer it to me, and I'm not really interested in going out, but Meiser, it's not a bad meal. So what would you have paid? $20 you would have paid for it. What would you have paid for it? You would have paid something for it. At the end of the day, you know, you're not going to take it for free. You would have paid for something for it. So what would you pay for it? So could be that's the amount you would deduct from the thing. Meiser, many of these cases, it's not like so. You know, sometimes it's actually you pay and they order the food for you based on your ticket, but sometimes it's more global. They order a certain amount, you know, and they expect as part of their way of raising money. It's like any campaign. You have to pay money to get money, right? You have to do advertisement. You have to do all kinds of things which go into raising money. So, but that obviously that I don't have to deduct from my Meiser money. The fact that they put posters all over the city.
No, but here you're getting the hana.
So here I'm getting a specific hana. So that's the thing. Yeah. Sometimes you don't even come. You know, you probably say you don't even come. You're not even getting down there. You're not even coming there. But they're putting out the food for you. You're not coming. You know. So there's a question. There's a question here. How much we consider the benefit that's not connected to the stock of money I'm getting? What's actually considered that I'm getting something that I wouldn't be able to deduct it off the money.
And like those cases, there's like, I forgot how it's called, Chinese auctions. Like you get tickets and you bid for different prices.
Right. So we discussed the raffle ones. So a raffle, Chinese auction is a little more complicated. A raffle, we discussed that if you know how much is deducted off the Meiser.
No,
The way the raffles are done today, you could do the whole thing. But a Chinese auction, you're actually putting in for a specific ticket.
Yeah, and you put $100 and you win $1,000.
Right. So
The question is if you win.
If
Yeah.
you win.
If you win,
right.
So
That's a shiloh. That's a shiloh. In other words, if there's a specific value to the ticket you're buying, you may have to deduct that value. If there's no specific value to the ticket you're getting, because there's unlimited amount people can buy, so there's no specific value to the ticket.
Yeah.
So
But
then
if
it
you
could
win,
be, if you win, there's another shiloh now. If I win, could I still count the original money as Meiser? I just happened to win. Or should you deduct it? So it could be Mikra Adin, you could account the original money taka as Meiser. But the minhag ha'olam is not to. That if you win, then you count the money you gave not as Meiser and you re-give it. But that's the thing. Now, Now, just some examples of these things. Matanas Lev Yoinim, Purim's coming up. Matanas Lev Yoinim. Could you use Meiser money for that? So that's a Dover Shebachayva. That's something which you're mechuyev to do. You're mechuyev to do it, so that you can't use Meiser money to pay off chiyuvim. Even if the chiyuv is to give it stock up, but I have a chiyuv to do it. There's a chiyuv to give Matanas Lev Yoinim. Now, you could argue that I only have to give Matanas Lev Yoinim a certain amount. The extras that I'm giving could be for Meiser money. That's true. You could say this is set aside for Matanas Lev Yoinim, and the extras I'm giving, I'm doing for Meiser money. That one is allowed to do whatever is more than mechuyev. But the etzem amount, you're not allowed to do. There's certain chiyuvim which you are allowed to. Kimcha de pischa. You want to give for matzahs for aniyim, so that's just a regular tzedakah collection. So it depends like this. So in the Zman HaChazal, where they were keveya, where the Bezdin, the Tzayin Tuvei will convey a certain tax on the city, like we discussed the other day. It's a tax what to give, and you wouldn't be able to count it as a stock of money. But today, it's more on a voluntary basis, even though one should do it. But there's nobody coming around with a stick forcing you to give Kimcha de Pischa. So Shem Zalman holds you allowed to pay it with your Meiser money. Chaim Kanievsky holds you allowed to give it with your Meiser money. So we'll come back to that. So now, just to stay on this topic a moment longer. So how do you view shul dues? Shul dues or aliyah money that goes to a shul. Again, we said you're buying a mitzvah be'etzem, but the money's going. So if the money's going to tzedakah, money's going for tzedakah purpose, it's okay. It's going for tzedakah purpose, we said. But if the money's going for shul dues, how do we view that? Like, how do we view these kind of things? It's not going to aniyim. It could be the shul is only. It's in the old days they used to have different shuls. One was the tailor shul, and then they had the rich man's shul.
Well, if you can't
So
afford it,
the money's going to the shul. Huh?
If you can't afford it, let's say, you want to pledge it if you can't take it from stocker.
Okay, but the question is it stocker? Is this stocker? I couldn't afford to pay a nice fancy meal. You can't take it from stocker. Is this considered stocker? I'm paying it to a shul.
The question is a chayiv, or the question is if it's a stocker.
So there's two questions here. So that's good. So there's two questions here. There's one question is, if I'm a chuyiv to give it anyways, if I'm a chuyiv to give it, so then it's davar shebachayva. I'm a chuyiv to give it. If there's, let's say, in the old days, there was one city in the shtat, they had one shul, and everybody had to go to that shul, and they were required to give the money that was what?
So it comes to the firewood.
So, huh?
People that came in had to pay for the firewood. There's a tax to get in.
Yeah, there's a tax. There's a tax that you had to pay. So it could be that's a davar shebachayva, something you're mechuyev to do, just like you're mechuyev to have a home to live in. You're mechuyev to have a shul to go daven in. So these are part of the chiyuvim. You wouldn't be able to take it off of Meiser. Today, you don't have to go to shul. There's plenty of other shtibuch you can go to that don't cost much. So if you want to go to a different shul, one could argue that's not a davar shebachayva. I don't have to be part of this shul. So it's a strong argument. I don't have to be part of the shul, so you can't consider it necessarily a davar shebachayva. But the question is, what is it? How do we view this? So there's mitzvahs. There's mitzvahs to rabbim. There are mitzvahs that are done for public service. For example, Sefer Torah. The shul needs a Sefer Torah. Okay? The shul needs a Sefer Torah. So there's two ways to get the money for a shul Sefer Torah. Either you could tax the people, and at the time when they had the koiches, the ability to tax people, they would do that. But today they don't. So it's donation. It goes by donations, and you get your name sewn on the mantle. So it's donations. So this is a mitzvah derabim that people benefit from. So that's also considered a tzedakah. Okay, it's not the same as feeding aniyim, but it's a tzedakah. It's a tzedakah.
It's a chiyuv, but not a mitzvah. Like teaching your child to swim is a chiyuv, but it's not a mitzvah. So can you then use it for that type of
We're gonna get to supporting children. I don't want to go off topic. We're gonna get to this. That's we're coming up to supporting children. So I want to give the money for the Sefer Torah. So obviously that's considered a mikveh. The city needs a mikveh. So in the days when they're able to tax the city to pay people to pay, it would be davar shebachayva. I wouldn't be able to use Meiser. Today we can't really force things. So one could argue it's not a davar shebachayv anymore. What it is it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah derabim. It's a mitzvah which is necessary, and you're helping people being able to go to use the mikveh, and that's a very important purpose. So so that's a mitzvah that other people are benefiting from. The rabbim is benefiting from. So the halacha is that hagam to do for mitzvahs wasn't so clear. For my own mitzvah, if I'm allowed to use Meiser money, the minhag is that for these kind of mitzvahs you could use Meiser money. So therefore, one aspect of giving money to a shul is considered a mitzvah that the public benefits from, and that you would be allowed to use your Meiser money from. Now there are other aspects which maybe not. I get a place to sit in shul, so that part, that's a benefit that you get, and that's what you're buying for. That's my own personal mitzvah at best. It's not the mitzvah of the rabbim, so that I would not be able to use my money for. So you have, when you're paying, whether it's membership dues or these kind of things, you have sort of a mix that some of the money is being used for the running of the shul, which is considered a mitzvah, and some of the money is used for your own personal gains, which maybe is not considered mitzvah. So that's a shaila, how you break down the money of a shul dues for use from tzedakah money. It's not so simple how to break it down, but one could argue that if I could go to a different shul and it would cost me X amount, and I'm just coming here, so if I'm going here because I get more benefits, so then you can't make that cheshbon. But if you want to support, you want to support the bigger shul because it's doing good things, so then maybe that difference for sure you could count as Meiser money, and maybe even some of the original money. It's not all used for a seat; some of it's used for other things. So these things are hard to break down, but it could be like this. I saw someone brings down that a third of the money should not be used for Meiser; the rest could be used for Meiser. So it's different breakdowns. How you break that down?
But like here, you could come without being a member. So that part of like having the seat.
You could have
You could have
you want to have aliyah.
Yeah. So getting the benefit, that part you cannot count for Meiser. You're buying into something, just like you want to buy into if you would buy into the liquor club or something, whatever, So here you're buying for a mitzvah. So it's for a mitzvah because I want to go daven, but it's an entrance fee to the club. But the difference is the money that you're giving is being used for a mitzvah. And we said when you want to buy a mitzvah, that money is being used for mitzvah purposes, then you'd be allowed to. I could buy an aliyah and that money is used for mitzvah purposes. But here it's not just an aliyah, it's not just a mitzvah. I get schusim. I have schusim. I have rights in the shul. If I buy, I have rights. They can't throw you out. You have seating rights and things like that. So there is a certain benefit you're getting, which you have to deduct. The belt says about a third of it.
One of the collateral benefits of a big shul is burial plots, and that's a significant cost.
That's a significant cost.
Smachta though.
Yeah.
It's a smachta. Yeah. There's no value to it because you might live another 50 years, right?
But that you're paying for burial. That happens to be a very good point. The burial society is also some of the money is being used for your plot, and some of the money is for the general good of the public, that there are plots to bury it, which is an important thing. Now, by the way, I didn't want to get into this right away, but buying a burial plot, could I use my money for? Could I use my money to buy a burial plot? So one cannot use Meiser money to buy a burial plot obviously for oneself or for one's parents, because you have a chiyuv. It's a chiyuv. It's a dvarim shebachayv. You have a chiyuv to a person has a chiyuv to marry their parents. But for anyone else, of course, you could. That's a tremendous mitzvah. So if it's not a parent, it could be even an in-law. You don't have a chiyuv to. It depends whose money. It's your wife's money, but it could be there's no chiyuv. So then maybe you'll be able to use Meiser. So that's. But anything which you have a chiyuv to do, that would not be included in Meiser money. It's a dvarim shebachayv.
But like there are cases like in certain countries where shuls cannot get people to become members or to contribute. When it gets time to bury someone, let's say the plot costs $1,000, but they charge the family $10,000
Right. To make up for all the missed.
Yeah. So it could be that you could cheshbon in. That's true. Could be that you could. You have to know. You have to speak to someone. Yeah. But that's the point. Now, there's something I do want to bring out here, which is very not pashut. Many people take the Meiser money, and they want to write a sefer Torah. They want to write a sefer Torah, l'zecha nishmas, whatever their loved ones are going to write a sefer Torah. It's a nice mitzvah. Sefer Torah is a tremendous mitzvah. But this gets into the shaila of could you use your Meiser money for mitzvah? Now, if the shul needs a Sefer Torah, there's no question you could use your Meiser money for that. The shul doesn't have a Sefer Torah, it needs a Sefer Torah. You could use your Meiser money because the shul needs a Sefer Torah. But a shul that has 30 Sefer Torah, they don't need a Sefer Torah. So why are you writing a Sefer Torah with your Meiser money? Because you want to have the schos, you want to have the mitzvah, ksiva Sefer Torah. It's a tremendous mitzvah, but you, according to most shitas, you can't use your Meiser money to do mitzvahs. So therefore, and it's not negay for the Rabbim. The Rabbim has plenty of Sefer Torah. If you would ask the public what they want you to do with your tzedakah money, they'd have a long laundry list before the Sefer Torah comes around, right? And therefore, hagam that people would like to do that, and it's a tremendous mitzvah writing Sefer Torah. But the question whether you can use your Meiser money, many places can say you cannot use your Meiser money to write a Sefer Torah. Now, again, if the sofer that's writing it, okay, here's the catch. If the sofer that's writing it, which is in many cases the case, I have a chaver, that's a story, Meiser. I have a chaver that, there was a sofer in the shul that obviously wasn't making money, and there was a good reason why he wasn't making money. He wasn't the greatest sofer in town. But he hired him to write a Sefer Torah because he wanted to give him parnasa. And he spent, I can't tell you how much money, and the guy wrote Sefer Torah. They had it checked. It had, I don't know if it told me, 1,000 mistakes in it. And he had to give it to someone to fix, and it cost him who knows how much to fix it up. But he said, look, I just did it that this guy should have parnasa. You do that, you start to use your Meiser money for that, you know what I mean? Now, that's a guy uses it. You're supporting someone, and it's the biggest stock is giving a guy parnasa, and it's a mitzvah. It's a Sefer Torah, so that's that's a different cheshbon. But you get these big seifrim that you want to get this beautiful Sefer Torah that lav dafka, the person that's writing it is an ani. Because he's not an ani, he has good parnasa. So there's a long wait to get him to write your Sefer Torah.
How do you get around the chiyuv part? If it's tzedakah, how do you get around?
That's a good question. If you still have a chiyuv, you still have a chiyuv to write a Sefer Torah.
So how do you write it off as Meiser money if it's a chiyuv?
It's a good question. There could be a certain portion of it you have to leave for your own mitzvah.
Well, he's not doing the community a favor, by the way. He's supporting this guy. This guy's going to go out and do this again and again.
This guy's not doing it again. Not after that one.
The market adjusts.
Yeah. But so these are things to bear in mind. This is the dynamics of using your money for tzedakah purposes. Now, once we're on that topic, there's interesting tshuvas. I didn't bring it here. It's interesting tshuvas. What's hakadiyah? You have a city, and this is a very common shaila. You have a new city, young city being built, young community, and there's always a question: what's the first thing to go up? The shul, the mikvah, the schools. It's a big shaila. What?
Not kosher pizza place?
So Meisser has a couple of tshuvas on this. He has one tshuva. Is it better to? There's a few tshuvas, but as a tshuva, is it better to build a mikvah, or is it better to build a school? Better to build a school. And part of the shaila is like this. Obviously, he writes it depends like what the situation is. Like, is there a nearby town where everybody could go to the mikvah and it's just a question of Friday nights? Is there a nearby town where everybody could go to school? It's a question of just the future. So obviously, if one of them has a eitzah and the other one doesn't have the eitzah, so the one that you don't have an eitzah for wins, obviously. But he says, all being equal, he says the school is more important. Because all being equal, a school, you have to raise the kids that there should be Torah mitzvahs, otherwise they won't be going to no mikvah and they won't be doing all the mitzvahs. Mashenke the mikvah is a one-up thing, and hopefully there's
you want too many children.
So again, if it's not possible at all, it's a different story. But usually, you could those that need one figure out an eitzah, But these are questions which come up. You have mitzvah derabims, and they're very important mitzvahs. And by the way, just for the there's this famous he brought up the topic of mikvah. It's a very famous Meiser. I heard it from Reuven Feinstein himself. Okay, Reuben Feinstein in Russia. There's a tshuva. There's a long tshuva for Moshe in the beginning of Chelik Aleph Yodea. When the communists, Moshe was a Rav there, all of 20 years old at the time. He was the Rav in Russia, and they were building. They asked all religious facilities were down. So he happened to have an in with the builder that was building the city bathhouse. Okay, so he worked with him that it should be at least a b'diavad, a kosher mikveh. With the paint has a long tshuva, and he worked that it should be a kosher mikveh. But obviously he was saying on many
Mm.
b'diavats. Understand? It wasn't your kosher with the Vod of Toronto on it. This was a very b'diavad situation. But he worked like that. So there's over 10 years between Reb David Feinstein, Shlita, and Reb Reuven Feinstein. And he said that it was a river. There was a river there in the city. But he wouldn't let his rebbitzin go to the river because people would say that the mikveh is not kosher. And obviously they had the standards. He wasn't going to use the mikveh for himself. He made it that, but the Eved, there's no other eitzah, but he felt that he was okay. And so he had an agreement with his wife. They were okay. 10 years. I heard this from Reuven. 10 years in between Reb David and Reb Reuven. Because why? Because he didn't want people to think the mikveh is not kosher, so he didn't let his wife go to the river, which is always an option in these situations. That's what Moshe. Anyways, so Moshe had these shaylos. He took this all very seriously. Mikveh, school. He understood the full dynamics of them. So that's a little bit of the breakdown here. Now, there's also a big shayla. What comes first? A tashbar. The Gemara says to build a school for young kids, or to pay for older people learning. The Gemara says that the world stands on the Torah of Tinoka Shel Beis Rabban because they're pure. So that's adif from everything. So some poskim say it's adif. Other poskim say that no. The Moshe has a tshuva on this also. It says that if you would take away the ability for Talmid Chacham to learn, you won't have anything left. Without Talmid Chacham, there's no Rabbonim, there's no Paiskim, there's no Rabbeim. You destroy the system. So it says that's Talmud Torah Kum. So you have all these shilas. The person wants to know how to optimize his money. You got to really ask a shayla how to take it about. So that's another topic which we'll talk about one day. Is Mitzv of Talmud Torah and sucker for that. It's a big topic. So anyways, getting to the other question, the children, which we discussed a little bit, the children, supporting children. So we said last week that supporting children, in the times of Chazal, the Gemara says after 6-year-old, you're not mechuyev to support your children. And some place can say, well, okay, so after 6-year-old, you can use your tzedakah money for that. You're not mechuyev al pidin. Yeah, the davar shebachayva you can't use Meiser money for, but once he's 6, there's no chiyuv. So Rabbi in the Tshuva writes, and others say clearly that today it's not like that. Today you have an obligation to take care of your kid until the norm. Rabbi writes, the question is till when. So Rabbi writes, until the norm that it's normally for you to support your kids. Until that norm.
33.
It's going up, as long as it's still on your insurance,
Inflation, people still live at home 50.
But once the norm is that they start going on their own into business, so then you could support them. But below that, Moshe writes that's your chiyuv. Now, it doesn't mean your chiyuv is to do everything for them. For example, you could send them to a yeshiva that doesn't cost you anything, and you want to send them to a yeshiva which costs more. So there's a big tzad that you could use Meiser money for that, because it's not a davar shebachayva. I don't know how it is today, but you used to be able to go to the meal without paying anything. Today they charge you. But you used to go there, and they paid you. They used to give chalukah. They would pay you to they would help to support the people. They could have food to eat and the place.
Meiser money to pay the chalukah.
Yeah.
And they use.
Yeah. So you'll be able to go. So you could go, and now you want to spend money for whatever specific purpose, so it could be you'd be able to. So something which is not a chayv, technically you would be able to use Meiser money for your own purposes. It's not a healthy thing to do. It's not a healthy thing for a person to use Meiser money for his own children. Again, but if a person doesn't have money, and he wouldn't be able to support his kids without using Meiser money, so then a person would be able to use Meiser money to support his kids in a situation where that's not a chiyuv on him. He doesn't have obligation, right? So if you want to, let's say, support the kid in Koil, he wants to learn in Koil, you have no chiyuv to keep him in learning in Koil. But when you have the Tanoim, you make the you sit down and you machayev yourself. So now you get the question: I obligated myself now, and once I obligated myself, like any other business deal, now you may not have a right to use your Meiser money from that. So it's like, that goes into that old machoikas. So Chassam Sofer writes one should specify clearly, at least have that in mind, that I'm not, either he shouldn't be machayev himself. I'll do what I could do, That's not a chiyuv, then for sure you can use. Or if he's machayev himself, he says clearly I'm going to use my Meiser money from this, because he has no chiyuv up front. The other side may say, I don't want you to use Meiser money for that. Maybe you won't have Meiser money and you won't be able to support. My son, you're not marrying my son until you machayev yourself. So then you have a problem. But technically, you have no chiyuv, so one would be able to use your Meiser money for these things. It's not tzarich. Even if a person has a tzarich, even if a person can't afford it himself, is using Meiser money, the place can say it's not l'chatchila that he should use more than half his Meiser money for that.
What did you say before about teaching a child to swim? That's a chiyuv, not a mitzvah.
It's a chiyuv,
And the mitzvah and the kids don't have the chiyuv. It's not on the kids.
Yeah, so that's not Meiser. That's not Meiser. It's not a mitzvah. It's not. It's a chiyuv you have. That's not Meiser.
It's on a mitzvah, right?
Not a mitzvah. No, maybe it is. It's not. Not really. No. Yeah. So that's so something to use for your children. So a person always has to know: is there a chiyuv to do it anyways, or is not a chiyuv to do it? If there's a chiyuv, so we spoke about tuition a little bit. Meiser writes about tuition. But Moshe's take on it is that that's you have a chiyuv. Something you have a chiyuv, you can't take off Meiser. And the l'chatchila is that one should pay that without Meiser. Obviously, if the cost is high and one cannot do that, so one's going to need to rely on Meiser. So Moshe writes, according to a person's panasa, let's say the school charges whatever, but according to my means, this is what I could afford. I could afford to pay $2,000-3,000 a year, not $10,000 or $18,000 or whatever it is. So then possibly he could use the rest. Moshe seems to say he could use the rest for Meiser money, because the school can't be mechayev you more than your means are. The school thinks they can mechayev you everything, but the halacha is they cannot be mechayev you more than your means are. And how they come to that conclusion is hard to know exactly. You can speak it over the Rav, you find out what really your chiyuvim are, and beyond that you'd be able to use your Meiser money for. Okay, there are different shitas on that. There are other shitas that say it depends. If it's a privately run school, and you could send to more of a publicly run school, which is cheaper, and the private run school charges X amount, so that's like you're buying anything. Like you would go buy something, you can't use Meiser money for. I want to buy a luxury school, so maybe you can't use your Meiser money for. On the other hand, you could argue that the chinuch here is better, and I'm doing it for my son, I'm not doing it for myself. So maybe you could use. So these are questions one has to ask.
But we said Hiddur Mitzvah, like a lulav is good. This should be the same thing as Hiddur Mitzvah.
Yeah, it could be. I would have spent less in the other school, and I could have sent, and here it's cost more. It could be it's a svara, yeah. Could be it's a svara.
It also could be that if you're paying full tuition, percentage of that is actually helping.
Yeah, so that's for sure. If you're paying full tuition, some of that is helping other people, even though they won't say that. So percentage of that for sure you can use towards your Meiser money. You're paying extra, but that's the concept is that what I'm mechuyev to do you can't use your Meiser money for. What I'm mechuyev for upbringing of my kid I can't use a Meiser for. But what's beyond that I'm allowed to use. So you have to know how much they have a right to be mechayev you. Obviously you're going to hold you have a right this much, and the schools can say they have a right that much. They come to some kind of best thing is to come to agreement with the school. This is how much I owe you, and the rest I'm paying for my Meiser. And if they're okay with that, sometimes they'll be okay with that.
They don't care.
What?
Right. Doesn't make any difference.
Well, it makes a difference. If I don't have money, I don't have Meiser. Let's say this year my business goes bankrupt, and then I don't have Meiser, and I don't owe them anything. I'm only agreed to pay them $2,000, and an additional $5,000 I'm giving to my Meiser money. Let's say I have no Meiser money. The school doesn't get it. So they may not agree to that. But they may agree it's worth it than fighting around with you for a whole year. They may agree, to do such a thing. But that's the dov shebachayva. You can't pay.
And grandchildren?
Grandchildren you're allowed to. That's assuming the parents don't have money, then you could support your grandchildren. If the parents have money, then again, if your parents have money but they don't want to send the kid to school, and you want to, and you're helping them out, that's also you could use your Meiser money because they wouldn't have sent there. But otherwise, if they have money, then that wouldn't be. But otherwise, the grandparent has no chiyuv on a grandchild. So machlokes ben b'nai if you have a chiyuv Talmud Torah ben b'nai. But one would be able to use his Meiser money for that. Now, if you're sending your kid, let's say, to an out-of-town school where there's room and board and food, and part of tuition is covering the room, board, and food, which is the case in many cases, that's already a whole different question. Because that much I have to pay if he's living at home also. That's not Meiser money. Again, if the child's old enough that I shouldn't have to support him at all, so maybe that's all stuck because the kid has no money. But if the kid is still under my chiyuvim, and now I'm going to pay for board, you would have to deduct that amount and say, well, that amount is I can't use for Meiser, because that amount I'd have to pay anyways for his room and board and thing. And the extra, which is going to support the Meiser, that I would be able to use. So these things get a little bit complicated, but that's the idea. The idea is something which I have an obligation to do anyways. So then I would not be able to use. There's a it's a little late, but just there's someone has decided to hire someone sick. There's a child or two in a poskim. Someone got sick, and he wants people to learn for him that he should get better. We get this a lot here in the Kerl. People want to give money, but people should learn for them. For a parent, or this or that. So the question is, are you buying the Talmud Torah? So it's you're paying for something. This goes into that child. Am I paying for something which I wouldn't be able to use by Meiser money for that? Or do you say, well, the money's going for a purpose of Meiser, and it's just like a side benefit that I'm getting? That's the question. You're paying money. Some people do it Lila Nishmas. I want to give money Lila Nishmas. So normally we look at it as a side benefit. You're giving tzedakah and the Lila Nishmas. The Mitzv tzedakah is what gives them Lila Nishmas, But in Talmud Torah, one could argue that there is a concept where you're buying. There's a Meiser, it's brought down in the beginning of Ruach HaChaim from Chaim Volozhin, that he was giving share. That the Taz was giving share. He was buying from the Taz. The Taz was giving a share, and the lady walked in that her son is dying. Daven, do something for him. So the Taz didn't know what to do. So he says, I give over this minute of Talmud Torah to your son. And the son got better. So the Musa, he gave over the Talmud Torah, So you're giving over the learning. So the question is that a purchase? So there actually is a whole needin in the Paiskim on this Shaila. The Meiser, most are makel and say that it's just a side benefit they're getting. It's just a Tovas Hana. It's not the etzem.
Why is it considered that the benefit is for the person paying as opposed to the person that is sick?
What?
Why is it considered that the benefit is for the person buying the Talmud Torah as opposed to the sick person? Because the one who's getting better or not is the sick person.
Yeah, but you're buying it for him. You're buying it for him. But if you want to hire someone, lost a parent to someone, and he wants to hire someone to say Kaddish, which one should do if he's not going to say Kaddish, to hire someone, to pay someone to say Kaddish, there it's not so simple you can use your Meiser money for that. Because that's a chiv you have. A person has a chiv to say Kaddish, and a person doesn't do it himself. He should hire someone to do it. It's a job shebachayva. So that one should not use the Meiser money from that.
Like if it's one who only has daughters, and the son-in-law is buying that.
What?
a person who passes away who only had daughters,
Right.
and then
So
one
you
of
put-
the
yeah.
son-in-laws is.
So that's a good child. That could be he doesn't have a chiyuv to the son-in-law. It's not his chiyuv to say kaddish, so it could be that he could use Meiser money for that. Again, depending where the money's going to.
Right.
The money's just going to a rich person to say kaddish, so that would just be a mitzvah, which is a child could use Meiser money for a mitzvah. But if it's going to support Talmud Torah, so then that would be usage of Meiser money.
Yeah.
Okay.